Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's The In Show, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
It's David Grice and Troy Simcock. We're talking all about innovation and the inspiring people trying to, come up with innovations that really do change our lives for the better. Talking about changing lives for the better, you could change ours by voting for us in the popular vote at the AustralianPodcastAwards.com.
Yeah, and helping us understand we've got more friends than just you and I.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're listened to in 45 countries, so we'd really encourage you to jump on and vote for the In Show, the Australian Podcast Awards. We're in the business and marketing category, right?
Yeah, that's right. It used to be called the Business, Marketing and Innovation category, but unfortunately they've dropped the innovation out of the title of the award, but it still means the same thing.
Yep, so that's where you'll find us, the AustralianPodcastAwards.com. Vote for us in that category and the popular vote as well. Now, let's find out what's in, David.
Back in September, we spoke to a guy called Richard Edwards. Now, he's a guy that has subdermal implants, which are RFID chips he puts in between his thumb and his first finger in that piece of fleshy meat that's there. Mm-hmm. And he's actually using these RFID chips to have a completely keyless life. Now, how many hours have you spent looking for keys, Troy?
Plenty, like way too many. In fact, if I look back at my whole life, I reckon I'd be pretty close to a week. And that's a lot of time spent doing absolutely nothing.
Well, you were doing something. You were looking for your keys. But
yeah, but it didn't feel that fulfilling, I could think of better things to do.
Yes. Well, look, here's Richard. He's talking about how RFID chips are not only being used for keyless entry to buildings and so forth, but it's being used for human identification and helping people with diabetes and so forth as well.
So back in early 2012, I actually lost my identity. I had it stolen and all of my forward-facing accounts on the internet were taken. My passport, my bank accounts were used overseas. And I sort of thought to myself, okay, well, this has happened. Now what? I found RFID. I did some research on the web and I thought this might be the way to go. So after a bit more research and some convincing of my colleagues and friends, I went ahead and did it. And I was like, wow, I've got subdermal implants in my hand now. Social media is going crazy about it right now. There are countries all over the world that are sort of taking it on and really being enthusiastic and encouraging to people to get these subdermal implants. At the moment, there are, little things. For example, diabetics, they carry a wristband that has the little got metal tag and it has their details. Nowadays, they're using RFID tags to be able to identify people. And this is the same thing. If into the future people are in a serious condition where they're unconscious, how do you identify them? And if this is going to be integrated into the health system, it's a simple way to go, hey, this is so-and-so. But it really just relies on people that are motivated to find out the other possibilities with these chips.
That's Richard Edwards talking about the benefits of RFID chips. I wonder whether that's going to become commonplace in the future.
Look, I certainly see that it is, and now I've spoken to 3 or 4 people now that I know that have got these, and being able to use the public transportation system, just scanning your hand on these things as opposed to having to have the actual card and making the machine go beep. But actually, your hand makes it go beep as well.
Yeah, great. Well, on the next In-Show podcast, we're going to talk to a guy who's dealing with all sorts of stuff. He's got Asperger's, he's got dyslexia, a couple of things that could stop people in life. But this guy is an absolute genius, a winemaker who has come up with this innovation. It's ended up costing $14 million, but that's small fry in terms of the benefits, not only to the winery he works at, to the state he lives in, but the global winemaking industry.
And did you, I know you did this one solo. Did you get to taste any wine while you were there?
I didn't even think about that.
Goodness me, what were you doing?
Well, I've got his business card. I'll follow him up later today. While I do that, make sure you've resubscribed to the In Show on Apple Podcasts and you're subscribed to the colour logo, not the black and white logo.
That's right. We've moved into the future. We've gone from black and white to colour.
So we'll catch you again on the next In Show podcast.
The In Show. What's in? Subscribe to the In Show podcast on iTunes. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.